These are the three 3D VIEW-MASTER fairy tales: Cinderella, Thumbelina and Piepiper of Hamelin. VIEW-MASTER Reel 1. Cinderella. Picture 1. Once there was a gentleman who had a lovely young daughter. Unfortunately for her, he married again. His new wife had 2 daughters. Like their mother, they were proud and haughty and ugly. They and their mother made the lovely daughter do all the hardest chores of the house. Because she often crouched in the chimney corner among the soot and ashes to rest and warm herself, they cheered and named her Cinderella. One day the 2 sisters were invited to a great ball the king was giving. Poor Cinderella had to be their maid-servant while they dressed in their finest clothes. While they dressed, they taunted her because she was too shabby to go to the ball. After they had left for the palace, Cinderella crept to her chimney corner and wept bitterly. Picture 2. At that moment, to her astonishment, Cinderella's fairy godmother appeared. Like all fairy godmothers, she came only when she was most desperately needed. Knowing at once the cause of the poor girl's tears, the fairy said, "You shall go to the ball, my child. Just do as I tell you. First, go into the garden and find a large pumpkin." Cinderella eagerly did her bidding. Soon the godmother followed, bringing a mousetrap, which held 6 fat mice. Picture 3. At a wave of the fairy's wand, the mice were quickly changed into 6 fine coach horses. She waved the wand again, and the pumpkin became a beautiful golden coach. Then she turned to Cinderella with a smile. "And now, my dear," she said, "you shall have your ball gown." Picture 4. In a flash, Cinderella found herself clad in a glittering golden gown. In her hands was a pair of tiny glass slippers. "Put them on," the fairy told her, "and you will be ready to go to the ball. But remember this," she added in warning, "you must not stay a second past midnight. At the stroke of 12, the magic will end. The coach will become a pumpkin again, the horses mice, and you will be dressed in rags once more." Picture 5. At the ball, Cinderella was mistaken for a princess from a far-off land. The handsome young prince would dance with no one else, and she was the envy of all the other young ladies. Most envious of all were her ugly stepsisters, who, of course, did not recognize her in her finery. Cinderella danced on in a daze of happiness, forgetting all about the time. Suddenly, the clock began to strike the hour of midnight. In a panic, Cinderella turned and ran. Picture 6. In her haste, she lost a slipper on the staircase. While the prince paused to pick it up, she dashed to her couch and was driven away, just far enough to be out of sight when the magic came to an end. She walked a long way home in her rags and with only one slipper, but she didn't mind. It had been the most wonderful night of her life. Picture 7. The next day, the prince proclaimed he would marry the girl whose foot fit the tiny glass slipper. All the young ladies of the realm tried and failed to get it on. Cinderella's stepsisters tried too, groaning and straining. They laughed scornfully when Cinderella timidly asked if she might try too. But when the slipper fit, their laughter turned to amazement. The prince cried joyfully, "You are the one! None other shall be my bride." They were married. Amid great rejoicing, Cinderella became a real princess. VIEW-MASTER Reel 2, Thumbelina. Picture 1. There was once a woman who longed for a child. So she went to a witch who gave her a seed, saying, "Plant this and you shall have your wish." The woman planted the seed, and in the morning a flower had come up. The petals burst open, and there in the middle stood a tiny, lovely girl, no bigger than the woman's thumb. So she was named Thumbelina. Picture 2. One night, as she slept in her walnut shell bed, a big toad hopped through the window and carried her off to a pond. "This lovely creature will be your wife," the old toad said to her ugly son. "She can live on a lily pad until time for the wedding." Picture 3. Poor Thumbelina wept over her sad fate. Hearing her, the little fish in the pool grieved for her and gnawed off the stem of the little lily pad so that it floated down the stream. A butterfly wanted to help too. So Thumbelina tied her sash to it and let it tow her far away from the old toad and her ugly son. Picture 4. Thumbelina lived all alone in the woods, quite happily. But at last winter came. She was cold and there was nothing to eat. Seeking food and shelter, she came to the snug little home of a kind old field mouse, who said, "I will share my house and my larder for the winter, if you will keep my room clean and tell me stories." Picture 5. Though she was warm and well fed, poor Thumbelina's troubles were not over. The mouse's neighbor was a mole, who had dug a tunnel from his house to hers. "You must marry the mole," the old mouse said. "He will give you a fine home." Thumbelina was very sad, because she loved sunshine and pretty flowers, while the mole liked only his dark burrow. But preparations went ahead for the wedding. One day, as they walked through the mole's tunnel, they came upon an injured swallow who lay in a swoon. Thumbelina nursed the bird back to health. They grew quite fond of each other, and when spring came and it was time for the bird to fly away, she wanted to go with him. But she didn't want to grieve the mouse, who had been so kind, and so she bade the swallow goodbye with tears in her eyes. Picture 6. Spring and summer passed. At last it was time to marry the mole and go to live with him under the ground, never to see the warm sun and bright flowers again. Just then she heard the beat of wings overhead. The swallow had come back. "Winter is coming, little Thumbelina," he said. "I'm flying off to the warm countries. Please come with me." No longer able to bear the thought of the mole's dark hole, she cried, "Yes, I'll come." He took her on his back and flew steadily for many days and nights, coming at last to his home, which was near an ancient marble palace, whose grounds were covered with beautiful flowers. Picture 7. Swooping down, the swallow put her in the middle of the loveliest flower of all, and there, to her astonishment, was a little man scarcely bigger than herself, with a golden throne and crown upon his head. Seeing the beautiful Thumbelina, He got up, smiling joyously. "I am the angel of the flowers," he said, "and I have been seeking these many years for a queen." Then he took the crown from his head and placed it on hers. "You shall live with me and help me watch over the affairs of the flower people forever," he said. Though he rejoiced at his little friend's good fortune, the swallow's heart was heavy because he too had loved her, and when he flew back to the land of the north, he sang of his sorrow to the man who wrote this story. That is how the world of everyday people came to learn of the adventures of tiny Thumbelina. VIEW-MASTER Reel 3. The Piepiper of Hamelin. Picture 1. In Hamelin town, when begins my ditty, almost 500 years ago, to see the townsfolk suffer, so from vermin was a pity. Rats. They fought dogs and killed the cats, and bit the babies in the cradles, and ate the cheeses out of the vats, and licked the soup from the cook's own ladles. Picture 2. At length the major spoke in council. "I'm sure my poor head aches again. I've scratched it so, and all in vain. Oh, for a trap, a trap, a trap!" Just as he said this, what should hap? At the chamber door, but a gentle tap, and in did come the strangest figure. "People call me the Piepiper. If I can rid your town of rats, will you give 1,000 guilders?" "1! 5,000!" was the exclamation of the astonished major and corporation. Picture 3. Into the street the piper stepped, and out of the houses the rats came tumbling. Fathers, mothers, uncles, cousins, families by tens and dozens, brothers, sisters, husbands, wives, followed the piper for their lives, until they came to the river Weser, wherein all plunged and perished. Picture 4. "My 1,000 guilders," the piper said. "Friend," quoth the major, "what we spoke of guilders, you know, was all in joke." The piper's face fell, and he cried, "No driveling, I can't wait. Beside, folks who put me in a passion may find me pipe after another fashion. You threaten us, fellow? Do your worst. Blow your pipe there till you burst." Picture 5. Once more he stepped into the street, and to his lips again laid his long pipe of smooth straight cane. Out came the children running, all the little boys and girls, with rosy cheeks and flaxen curls. Tripping and skipping ran merrily after the wonderful music with shouting and laughter. Picture 6. The major was dumb, and the council stood, as if they were changed into blocks of wood, unable to move a step or cry, to the children merrily skipping by. And lo, as they reached the mountain side, a wondrous portal opened wide, as if a cavern was suddenly hollowed, and the piper advanced, and the children followed. And when all were into the very last, the door in the mountainside shut fast. Picture 7. Did I say all? No, one was lame, and could not dance the whole of the way. And after years he used to say, "The piper led us to a joyous land, joining the town and just at hand, where water gushed and fruit trees grew, the flowers put forth a fairer hue, and honeybees had lost their stings, and horses were born with eagle's wings. And just as I became assured my lame foot would be speedily cured, the music stopped and I stood still, and found myself outside the hill, left alone against my will, to go now limping as before, and never hear of that country more. We want to add new videos every day, so please subscribe to our channel.
And if you had fun, thumbs up,